Hello and welcome to Horse Tales. I'm Kathy Morgan and I'm here in my horses field on the southern slopes of Shaftesbury. It's a beautifully quiet day. It's quite dull, but because it's autumn, then everything is so colourful. It doesn't really matter what the sun's doing, does it? The horses have just finished their breakfast, and as is their routine, they just stand around. My horses live out 24/7 and they don't have a strict routine. If your horse is stabled or you're at a livery yard, then you do end up having to have a routine, and horses do quite like that. But my horses, they get checked twice a day, but it doesn't matter. It could be 6 a.m, it could be 11 a.m. It really doesn't matter what that time is, but it just means that they have their own little ways of being in the field and moving around. But as with all horse owners, my thoughts are turning to fireworks. I was really disappointed with a post that this noise, this licking of lips and sucking of teeth, is Raina. She's just finishing off the sugar beet that she ate earlier, and it's obviously all got stuck around her teeth. So that's a nice image for you while I'm talking. There was a post on Facebook this week about fireworks. It was a horse owner who is very concerned after traumatic events from last year. And some of the responses, now if you then click through and follow those people's profiles, they're usually not local people at all, but they are often the loudest. And I feel that we need to speak up more, those of us who are local and genuinely do understand. So she was very concerned. There was an incident in Semley last year, you may well be aware of it, where somebody had a fireworks party in their garden, and the garden is surrounded by 3 other horse owners' land. There was no warning given. One of the people was actually out surrounded by her horses in an enclosed space when it all happened, and she had her dogs with her, and it was just all very, very, very dangerous. Another horse owner nearby found that her horse was injured and had needed the vet, and that was quite a few months. And all of the horses were very, very startled. As horse owners, if we know that something's going to be happening, we can take precautions. But there is so much nonsense being posted. I know it's social media, but we do have a responsibility for information, and as a former information professional, I'm really hot on making sure that the correct information is disseminated. Now, you can't make people listen to it, but one of the comments was, you've had a whole year to plan this, move your horses, it's only one night. Well, there's several things with that. It's not only one night. If you're not particularly bothered by fireworks, or you enjoy fireworks, you are probably not aware that the whole letting off of fireworks goes on over a space of 2 to 3 weeks in our area. It's not just one evening, and it's not just one sort of 2-minute, 10-minute fireworks. I've sat here. We are not surrounded by houses where my horses' field are. We have no gardens. We have no big events in the immediate vicinity. But I have sat here on an evening and counted 14 different fireworks displays that I can see from here. So the comment was, just move your horses somewhere else. Well, where? Where do you move 3 horses? Well, actually, I think the total number of horses that were affected by that particular fireworks display in the immediate vicinity was 7. And then in the wider area, because obviously the noise of fireworks isn't just contained, in that little one or two gardens, is it? There was probably upwards of 30 horses that were affected by that particular fireworks display. And that won't have been the only one that evening. As I said, I've counted 14 before now from sitting in this field. So just move your horses elsewhere. Where do you do that? It's very difficult to put horses somewhere else. That just really isn't practicable. And are there going to be fireworks wherever you've moved your horses to? Horses like routine, they like their home environment, they like to know where everything is. So I need to make sure that my horses know where the fences are, so if they are startled and run off in a blind panic, that they're not going to injure themselves, or they are going to, hopefully that blind panic will clear and they will be able to pull themselves up short. We've had horses in the area who a lightning strike. Now, you can't prepare for a lightning strike. Nobody's going to give you a warning for a lightning strike. You can't make sure you're out there with your horses, checking they're okay and being reassuring. There was a horse who panicked when a lightning strike hit a pylon in their field, and the horse just ran through several strings of barbed wire and a solid beach fence. So this is the kind of reaction and response that horses will have. They're flight animals, so you can't just move them somewhere else. Another comment was, well, go and speak to your neighbour. That has already been done. This is not a first-time horse owner who doesn't speak to their neighbour. That had already been done, and the response had been very abusive. And she wasn't the only horse owner in the area. There were several others. No apologies have been received. No warning has been given. So that was a really silly thing. And then other people tried to derail the whole conversation by talking about the law. And I just thought, at what point have we got that we've now lost common sense that you do not let fireworks off next to horses? It's the law that you can drive at 50 or 60 miles an hour along many of our country roads around our single lanes where you can't see round the corner. Do you do that? Is that a sensible thing to do? It's the law that you can drive at 70 miles an hour along a motorway. Do you do that when you can see the traffic is slowing down or stopped ahead? This is absolute nonsense. Don't derail the conversation. Don't let fireworks off in the vicinity of horses. If you are going to have a fireworks display, so when we used to live in the Don Heads, we had neighbours next door who always felt the need to have a fireworks party. They always invited us. They always told us when it was happening, the date, the time. Now, the first year I made the mistake of not asking the time and stood out with my horses for about 4 hours on a really, really cold night. So that was quite important. And if you know what time it is going to be and roughly how long it's going to last, you can make arrangements. You can be with your horses. Obviously, I couldn't move them somewhere else. Where am I going to move them? But I could be with them, and the horses were absolutely fine. But what I found since moving here, so in the Don Heads, we had that one fireworks party that happened every year. We could hear other fireworks parties going on around us, but they weren't particularly close, and we could see a lot more. And at the time as well, we had 3 pheasant shoots going on every week. So the horses were basically on high alert all of the time. It's very stressful when you've constantly got all these bangs. And with fireworks comes, and with shooting actually, with the beating, comes excitement and energy. And obviously that whole atmosphere is very different from a morning like this one, where I'm just sitting here and I can hear the bird song. I can't even hear the traffic on the A350 or the A30. There's no sirens at the moment. Nobody's flying from Compton Abbas. Nobody's working in the fields with a tractor. It's lovely and peaceful. But for about 3 weeks, as soon as it starts to get dark, then these fireworks are going off for, I think there's laws about when you can let the fireworks off, but basically from 5 o'clock in the evening until gone midnight. There was one, the first time I moved here from the Don Heads, because obviously we still need to get the horses exercised and the dogs exercised. And I was out walking, and it was about 4 minutes to 5. And I'm very precise about that because it was 4 minutes to 5. It was still light. And within the space of the next 7 minutes, 3 different fireworks events went off around us. There were other people out walking their dogs. It wasn't even dark. I mean, where's the fun in seeing fireworks in the daylight? So please just think about, if you are going to hold fireworks, who is it around you that you need to warn? And I don't mean, well, in this case, they didn't even warn their immediate neighbours, let alone the ones 1 field or 2 fields away. But I don't just mean your immediate neighbours. You know, think about how sound and light travels, and just have a little word with somebody, and at least then they can be aware, they can be with their horses, they can make sure that no vets are needed, because if a vet is needed, you know, if the horse gets injured at 5 o'clock at night and nobody comes to see the horse until 7 o'clock in the morning, that's an awful long time for something to become irreparable, which could have been treated quite quickly. We've had a horse in our area died a few years ago during a fireworks event through panicking about what was going on. Just please have a little think about whether you need to have that fireworks or whether you could go to an organised event. Here on Alfred, the fireworks events are listed in the What's-ons, they're listed on the social media, there's plenty of information available. As a horse owner, I'm just asking you to have a little think about that. Meanwhile, in other news, the other thing that's on every horse owner's mind at the moment is acorns. There are acorns absolutely everywhere. I think we all know by now it's a mast year for apples and acorns. Acorns are another thing that are a killer for horses, and they don't rot down very quickly. We really need the squirrels to get very active. Nobody that I know has pigs, and if you do, can you imagine the damage that they would do to the ground? So we have large areas of our fields that are fenced off from these acorns, but trying to walk around the lanes around Shaftesbury, you may have noticed how many acorns there are lying on the ground. So just pay attention and just see how long it will take for them to go. So hopefully whatever in nature eats acorns is going to be very happy and filling their bellies, because I don't want my horses to do that. Somebody local was telling me that she's already heard of 3 horses that have died. I don't think they're in our local area, but obviously in the horse community, we are a wider community and we talk to each other. And she has heard of 3 horses now already who have died, sadly, from acorn poisoning. So, gosh, and yet autumn is my favourite time of year. It's just fraught with dangers. And on a much happier note, I was going to finish off telling you what I started last week, which was the rosettes came. Beautiful, beautiful frilly rosettes came for our Top Barn Online Summer Challenge. So this was carried out throughout July and August. And whereas most of the online competitions and challenges that I do are all about the horse and what I can do with the horse, this one is a little more aimed at the rider, the owner, because we don't all ride. And it was a really super one. So we had to choose 3 out of 7 challenges, and the ones I chose, so one of them I chose that did directly involve the horses, so it was covering a certain number of miles with the horses, and we achieved a really rubbish amount, but we still managed to gain a superhero rosette, so I quite like that. Another challenge was steps. So I think there's just this random number, isn't there, that's come up, that 10,000 steps is a good one. Well, in the weeks leading up to the challenge started, I was regularly doing over 15,000 steps. So I was really hopeful for this. And then as soon as the challenge started, if you remember July and August, they were pretty hot. June had been quite hot as well. But I think I was just exhausted by then. I think I'd peaked. But I still managed to do, ended up being an average of about 13 to 14,000 steps a day, an average of 13 to 14,000 steps a day. And I was really kicking myself at the end because I thought, gosh, just that extra 1,700 steps a day and I could have got mega superhero rosette, but got a superhero rosette, so that's something to be proud of. And then the final challenge that I chose out of the 7 was hours of training. So at the time I was training for a big running race that's happening in a couple of weeks' time. And so it wasn't just hours of running, but it was hours that you put into all the training. I think we all know if you do any kind of sports, or if you're a singer or a writer or an artist, anything, you actually need to put in the hours of practice, don't you, and the hours of training. So that was included. So all the hours of walking the horses and the dogs around the lanes, or riding the horses, or going to the gym, or doing some running, all counted. And I was really chuffed that although I ended the challenge injured, there was a little incident between my leg and JD's back legs. And then I also got a bit dehydrated, and you don't want to hear about all that. But anyway, it was really great that my efforts were rewarded, despite all the bruises and all the rest of it, with a mega superhero rosette. So that was a really, really great end to the summer. And we are still waiting for the rosettes to come from yet another challenge. So hopefully they will have arrived in the post before next week's Horse Tales, and I can tell you all about them then. So whatever you're doing, I don't know if you can hear that, but that's JD. If you heard it, you'll know what he's just done. If you didn't, you don't need to know. And on that note, we're going to end this week's Horse Tales. Thank you very much for listening.